Now, transit. And we was in the elevator together, right? And you had to pitch me on why we need mass transit in Nashville, Middle Tennessee. What would that pitch be like?
Individual freedoms are directly tied to mobility.
Okay.
Bottom line.
Okay.
I can tell you and regale you with stories and anecdotes of how it impacts our health, our access to jobs, workforce, economic prosperity, equity, you name it. But in a nutshell, individual freedoms are directly tied to mobility.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Slice of the Community. I'm your host, Jerome Moore, and today we have the CEO and President of the Transit Alliance of Middle Tennessee, Jessica Dauphin. How you doing, Jessica?
Good, glad to be here.
Glad to have you here. Now, transit, and we was in the elevator together, right? And you had to pitch me on why we need mass transit in Nashville, Middle Tennessee. What would that pitch be like?
Individual freedoms are directly tied to mobility.
Okay.
Bottom line.
Okay.
I can tell you and regale you with stories and anecdotes of how it impacts our health, our access to jobs, workforce, economic prosperity, equity, you name it. But in a nutshell, individual freedoms are directly tied to mobility.
So I want to go a little to your background a little bit, right? I know we talked about like you growing up in the rural area of Tennessee and just how like you seen transit because you don't have an engineering degree, you don't have a planning degree, but you're entrenched in this thing that we really need, which is transit. Tell us a little bit of that background story because I just think it also connects the rural and like kind of urban areas and how transit is important and how it affects us all, albeit maybe on a little different levels.
Well, you just nailed it, right? Transit affects us all.
Yeah.
Our ability to be mobile. Growing up on a dirt road in South Cheatham County in Pegram, Tennessee, and then Kingston Springs, I didn't have the ability to walk anywhere if there wasn't someone with a car that could take me into town, as we used to call it, go to town. Then I wasn't going. So if there wasn't a school bus to take me to school, then I wasn't going. So I really got firsthand experience about how access or inaccess or not having access to opportunity can really affect a person.
Yeah. And so that equity piece, that justice piece, right? I want you to speak on that, because we hear like justice, and a lot of times it's like around like criminal, legal justice, housing justice, but like how does transit connect to justice?
Okay.
Yeah.
I do have a friend. Her name is Ashley Northington, and she can tell you from her heart what that means. And she said, transit is justice. And ever since she said that, I want to give her the quote.
Yeah, transit is justice. Transit
is justice because, as we've said, it's directly tied to individual freedoms.
Okay.
It is for every person. And when you think of justice, it's really the equitable access to opportunities, right?
Okay.
So if we're talking strictly economic prosperity, all right, we live in an area that is car-centric. So we don't live in 15-minute cities. I can't walk from, I don't know, where I live in Bellevue 15 minutes and get to a really high-paying job, in theory. I have to use my car.
Okay.
So if I have to own, operate, buy a car in order to participate in the economy, it's not an equitable economy because not everyone's able to participate.
Right.
And beyond that, like if I have to get in a single occupancy vehicle or a vehicle that I own and operate, or pay a ride share, for instance, to get even to some educational opportunities or training opportunities to further my ability to increase my economic prosperity for myself and my family.
Right.
That's not equitable.
Right.
So in the very basic terms of justice, in terms of equal opportunity for success, transit is, queen.
Yeah, queen. Hey, I'm with it. I'm for it. Hey, Look, I no problems there, right? When this is Women's History Month anyway, right? Like, so
Thank you.
no complaint from me. When we talk about mass transit, right, and kind of going back to that urban rural kind of connection, right? How does having mass transit in Davidson County positively affect the other surrounding counties in Middle Tennessee?
Well, making it easier to get around while you're here.
Yeah.
So we do have a regional transit system. Fun fact, Tennessee I think is one of the few states that has public transit in every county.
Okay.
It may not look like a big 40-foot bus,
Yeah.
but it's available.
Okay.
We have several transit agencies in the region.
Okay.
So, there's the Rover in Murfreesboro, Franklin Transit in Franklin, Clarksville Transit System in Clarksville, Montgomery County, and even Columbia has the Muletown Trolley. So you have accessible mass transit to a degree around the region. And then the Regional Transit Authority, the WeGo Regional Transit Authority operates WeGo Star that goes from Lebanon into Nashville.
Okay.
Also from Dixon into Nashville, just from the region to Franklin, Murfreesboro. We have the big Pike extensions there. You can jump on one of those and come in, for instance, and say that Nashville has a super robust, convenient, affordable, frequent, operable system here that you can tie into. Imagine being able to get from those outerline counties into Nashville and not need a car.
Right, yeah.
Right, you could work anywhere in Davidson County, essentially,
Right.
Or shop, or visit restaurants, cafes, whatever have you. Go to sporting events, go to concerts,
Right.
And not need to drive in on 40, 24, or 65.
How do we, especially those that are from Nashville, right? Especially like myself, right? I've always been a car city. People love their car, right? But also like myself, I've been able to live abroad and experience like high level, like mass transit, like China, for example, right? How do we get residents in Nashville, right, who hasn't experienced that and just really love their cars to really see and understand how like mass transit and efficient transit is something that we really need? And we're not trying to say don't drive, right? That's not what we're trying to say, but we're trying to say, hey, there should be other options for other people who may not have a car, can't afford a car, or just need a better way to access maybe food or maybe in jobs or maybe other things that they don't have in walking distance or immediate proximity to where they live.
Okay. This is one of the things I think that we've been struggling with the most, because you're addressing a few things. It's cultural.
Okay.
We're car-centric. You nailed it.
Yeah.
You said that already. We're not trying to do away with cars.
Right.
I just want to say that. Like, I want to reiterate what you said. We are not. This is not a war on cars. Just keep your car. I love my car.
Yeah.
Right. I used to love driving. I don't really love driving anymore, but traffic really
Right. Yeah.
pressed that out of me. There was a time in Nashville when we didn't have a greenway.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Someone had to bring that to the city. And it was a brave council member, okay? And when he did, there was pushback. People didn't want it.
Oh yeah, we don't want
want
green
that.
pastures and nice walks and smell the nice air.
Well, it wasn't thinking like that.
Yeah.
They weren't thinking of these beautiful leisurely walks on a linear park.
Oh, let me guess. We don't want certain people coming into our areas that maybe that don't live here. Oh, it was those people.
It was those people coming into our neighborhood. It's the unknown, Jerome. So we oftentimes will eschew or the unknown. And I think transit is faced with that same sort of initial feeling.
Right.
But what happens is you get that one proof of concept out there, that one greenway, and then all of a sudden,
right,
people see it,
right,
they can use it, they hear stories. So maybe I lived in an area that wasn't close to the greenway, but I kept seeing how awesome it was or hearing how awesome it was from friends who were able to use it, and then I want one.
Right.
And I think that's what we're faced with here with transit. We somehow have to get something in the ground, because And that's not to say we don't have an excellent transit system right now. WeGo does an excellent job for the money they get because they're not evergreen, right? They have to come to the city every year and say,
we need this in a budget.
Yes, and they have to defend it. It's not even as simple as, them getting the money. Right? They're like, no, we need this, and here's why.
Yeah.
And so for what we have, WeGo does an excellent job.
Right.
I mean, top notch.
And if I remember, just from the research I did, WeGo is historically been kind of underfunded.
It is historically underfunded.
Yeah.
And Nashville, and to be fair, is transit in the United States, I would say has been underfunded from the get-go because I think as a country, we prefer cars,
especially in the South, right?
And let's bring it back to Nashville.
Yeah.
I wanted, and this is the whole Greenway anecdote, but here's the thing. We are, and you may have been feeling this too, really feeling collectively very grumpy about the exponential growth we have been experiencing.
Yeah.
Right? We're in the pot that is boiling.
Right.
Over with growth, population, job growth, you name it, tourist growth.
Tourism, yeah.
Right? So there's no reason we have to remain grumpy about it.
Right.
We just need to invest in managing it.
Right.
And adding more active transportation modes is a tool that we have available to us whenever we opt to pull that tool into our tool belt.
I want to talk about money. And I want to talk about money in two different ways, right? Okay. The first one I want to talk about money is affordability, right? How much money could people, I'll put it like this. Nashville is already, unaffordable for many people, right? Because this cost is not a lot of affordable housing.
Because affordability and transit go hand in hand.
Affordability and transit go hand in hand, right? So therefore, I may want to work in Nashville or even live in Nashville, but I'm gonna decide I'm gonna live in Murfreesboro because, I can't afford, to live in Nashville at this current moment. However, I may still have to drive in, right? And that might cost me $5, $6, $7, $8, depending on the vehicle that you have, in gas, so you're still paying for transit in that particular way, right? So how would that minimize those costs? Because if you're paying $600, $700 extra in gas, right, that could go to a mortgage. You probably can afford to live in Nashville, but you might not be able to afford to have a car.
That's right.
And so how does that affordability piece work in those type of situations, especially for people that's like, okay, I just won't live in Nashville, but I just work in Nashville? Are they really saving money?
No, unfortunately, that's pretty much a myth. I think that at one point that may have worked. Okay. But with gas prices over $3 a gallon and just kind of staying there and inching into $4 a gallon. With the price of cars now through the pandemic, they really went through the roof.
Yep, sky high.
I can tell you a few years ago before the pandemic, someone came into our Transit Citizen Leadership Academy, and I can't remember the expert that came in at this point and said this, but they were showing us the data on the myth of I'll just move to Murfreesboro and commute in. You really, you wind up paying 70 to 80 cents on the dollar you quote save for transportation to move there, right? And you're losing time because you're spending time sitting on the interstate, right? Or Murfreesboro Pike to come in and then go home. And then you've lost, 2 hours a day if you're an hour in and hour out.
Quality of life.
Quality of life. You know that long commutes like that are associated with higher heart disease, diabetes, higher BMIs, and
really
higher divorce rates.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I would think the long car ride, would help relationships. Like, let me just take my time getting home. And
I think I even, I just.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, our commute
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's.
Transit can save relationships.
There's the justice right there.
That's the transit can save your relationship. That's the next campaign. That's the commercial for the campaign. And so, okay. So I'm glad we broke that down. Now let's go to the other funding of new transit, right? We did have a referendum in 2018. Let's move Nashville. It failed, unfortunately, right? What did you all learn from that referendum, from that campaign, that maybe, you know, things should be different next time? And then I want to pivot into a new referendum, especially during, you know, mayoral elections in a possibly, you know, we're going to get a new mayor, and how that kind of plays into getting that back on a ballot.
I think there were a lot of lessons learned, and this also depends on who you talk to.
Right.
But for me, what I saw is the need for really close communication with communities.
Okay.
Right. People have to know what it is they're talking about, what they're voting on, and what they're paying, what you're asking them to pay for.
So it was a lot of miscommunication, probably, like in what was happening or what wasn't happening during that campaign.
Because remember, the campaign was all about easing congestion. Right. That was their main tagline.
Then you had like the AMP. Then you had that terminology come in to play as well. It's like, okay, well, now we're getting the AMP. Well, what is that?
Right.
And that's new language and education and awareness people have to learn. Okay.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And you're kind of operating under a new law, the Improve Act, that prescribes exactly what you can and can't do for a referendum for transit funding.
That goes into taxes and things like that. And so break that down, because a lot of people feel that, you know, okay, the money piece, what am I as a taxpayer going to have to put into this, right? But that Improve Act kind of tells you what can be pulled.
That's right.
Okay.
So in 2017, the state legislature passed the Improve Act, IMPROVE.
Okay, Improve Act.
It's a very long and tortured acronym, but so it in there is they raised the gas tax, they lowered the grocery tax, they phased out the hall tax, I think, and then they did some enabling legislation that allows cities and counties above a certain population number threshold to take the request for dedicating funding to transit to the voter instead of having to go to the state legislature, right, which is how it had been.
Dedicated funding. That's dedicated funding. Is that what we need?
That's what we need.
Dedicated funding. Okay.
Here's the thing. Can I tell you why we need dedicated funding?
Why do we need that dedicated funding?
Okay. Because we need to remain competitive for federal dollars. At its base. Okay. So we get an automatic allocation based on road miles and population and blah blah blah. So you know that is. That's that.
Right.
Now, and that's typically FHWA or Federal Highway Administration funding. But the FTA, or the Federal Transit Administration, also has funding, but typically theirs are competitive grants. Okay. And as you know, when you're vying for federal dollars, there has to be a local match.
Right.
Okay. And if you're looking at a bus priority, a transit priority lane, a bus only lane. For 5 to 7 miles, we'll say it's going to be, and this is numbers I don't like hold me to this, but say it's like $400 million to build that, right? The local match would be 20, 30, or maybe even up to 40% of that. Okay, and that's just to build it. And then once it's built, you've got to own, operate, maintain it.
Right, maintenance,
Maintenance, right, and largely that is also paying our bus operators. Right, handsomely to do their job. That's very important too. I mean, that's Can I just give a shout out to bus operators?
Shout out to them
for handling their business during the pandemic and keeping us going, because not everyone was able to work from home. During the height of the pandemic, we still had 10 to 14,000 people riding buses.
That goes into that justice piece. It goes into that equity
piece. Who was able to work from home and who wasn't, right?
Right.
So we still had people heading out to work, to grocery stores and gas stations and to the hospitals.
Right.
I mean, we needed these people, and they were able to get back and forth.
Where do we rank
the
as far
bus.
as other cities or states that get this dedicated funding? Like, is this like a
We're
wide
the
thing,
We're the
or
last one of our size, last city of our size without dedicated
the
funding.
last one of our size?
Yeah.
You know, why do, as Tennessee as a state, we show like coming in last and all that things. So unfortunately, we got to do better. We got to do better. Back to the referendum, right? Unfortunately, there was a scandal that happened during the 2018 with former Mayor Megan Barry. Did that shift things, you feel, during that mayoral administration, what was going on and kind of taking a lot of the
I think
awareness away from the...
I've heard anecdotally, and I wasn't in the rooms at the time. I was
Right.
the associate director at the Transit Alliance, so that was above my pay grade. But I have heard anecdotally the polling before that was favorable to it passing. Mayor Barry was extremely charismatic. She had a high confidence rate. People really loved her and believed in her,
Right.
and she was the champion
Right.
of Let's Move Nashville. So I think that did unfortunately have a negative effect on the outcome.
It helps because we're a mayor-driven, like, kind of city, right?
Very strong mayor. Yeah.
Marriage. Why didn't we have more champions during that time in 2018, and how do we get more champions? Hopefully the new mayor will be a champion, but also others that have some decision-making power or influence.
Right, and that's what we need. We need the
Right.
people with decision-making power and influence to get
Right.
on in this issue and get involved and really start pulling or pushing it. So, yeah, I don't know why they didn't. Again, that was above my
Yeah.
pay grade at the time.
Right.
I was just kind of a fly on the wall. I was aware and
Right.
paying attention
Right.
when I was around, but I wasn't in any capacity making this decision.
Because I think, like, most people will agree we need transit, right? Clearly, especially at this point.
Right. Well, can I just say,
Go ahead.
you know, we were told 10 years ago, hey, we're going to be a region of over 2 million people,
Wow.
right? And what did we do?
Nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now we're being told, hey, we're going to be a region of over 3 million people. It's coming.
Like within like about 2030, 20...
I would, the next 10 or 20 years or so, I'd have to go back and
Yeah,
look. But
20,
yeah,
30,
so,
20... Wow.
so we have fair warning is my
Huh.
point. And we had fair warning.
So an extra million people
Another million people. Yeah.
in Nashville. That's... Wow.
And that's regional.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're over 2 million today,
Right.
which is just wild to think about.
Yeah.
So our infrastructure, our transit and road infrastructure was fine when we were under 1 million,
Right.
right? But now we're over 2 million, and we're staring down over 3 million in the coming years. So we
Right.
have time to correct and prepare. What are we going to do?
So I think that's a great question that I guess we need to be asking our mayoral candidates at this particular time, right? Early voting is in July, actual voting is in August, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be a runoff that happens in September, right?
Well-
What should we say to our voters, right? What should our voters be asking these mayoral candidates while they're on the mayoral campaigns, participate in these forums, and why they have close access and proximity to? What are some 3 or 4 things that we should be asking these mayoral candidates as far as gauging how they feel or don't feel about transit and dedicated funding specifically to transit?
You know, ask them their priorities. What are your top 3 priorities for Nashville? You know, where do you see us going? Just to see how it ranks.
Okay.
Because that if it's important to them, it'll rank up there.
Right.
I think for over 80% of regional population, it ranks.
Right.
Right. So let's just see where they are. And then, what's your vision for mobility in Nashville? Where do you see us headed? You know.
Yeah.
what is your transportation plan? And transportation is a large umbrella of things.
Right.
That's anywhere from your own personal vehicle to freight to buses and trains to micromobility and bikes and walking ways. That's
sidewalks, everything.
Everything, right? So that's the big umbrella. What's your vision for transportation, mobility? And then the third thing would be like, how do you propose we fund it?
Yeah.
Right, because it's one thing. Can I just tell you, Nashville probably could stock a small library with the number of plans and studies we've done on corridor streets, sidewalks, safety, bike lanes, and greenways, right? We have that ready to go. It's been studied and looked at by experts.
Right.
So
where's the
that's
money?
right. Like
where's the dough?
Where it always like comes to a screeching halt is the funding.
Yeah.
Right, we need that funding.
Yeah, we need that dedicated funding.
We need that dedicated funding.
And so, and that I think this is important to point this out too. Like, it's not gonna get any cheaper, right? Like,
Preach.
Like it's not gonna get any cheaper.
I know.
And so, for those people who may be worried about having to pay, like now, well, it's gonna be more expensive later.
So you want your kids to pay higher prices?
And so
you're going to want your grandkids to pay for it, or you want them to move away because they don't want to live here because they can't get anywhere? Because that's what we're looking at. I think those are our options. And I hate to sound like Chicken Little, but at some point, it will become too much. Are we going to sit on our hands and wait for that pain point to become too much, to where we're like, uh-oh, people are leaving, now what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or do we proactively say, I see the issue here.
Right.
And we got to make a tough decision.
Right. What can people do to start being a part of that conversation today? Right? Because I think we see the challenges. People are experiencing them firsthand. How can they be engaged like yesterday to figure out more, to really figure out like to get a better understanding of like what mass transit is, go through that educational piece, go through that awareness piece, and then be able to talk and ask, okay, how does this affect me? How can it benefit me or benefit my neighbors, right? And how it intersects with other things or other people's and their daily journeys that, I may not experience. I might not I have a different type of privilege. Like, how can they start that process?
You just gave a commercial for the Transit Citizen Leadership Academy.
Oh.
Which is something.
I'm just giving commercials today.
Yeah, no, you are a natural. So the Transit Citizen Leadership Academy is something that the Transit Alliance is known for. We've been hosting it since 2010.
Okay.
We're hosting our 25th TCLA later this year. You can go to my website, thetransitalliance.org.
Okay.
Find out more information about it. Register. It's free to attend. We want to have a big class this year. It's 8 weeks long. We get 2 weeks off. Experts come and give these presentations, allowing you time to ask them your questions and really sit and internalize this information, synthesizing it.
Right.
For you. But in the media, because that's in the fall, right now is like you said, we have a mayoral campaign going on. Man, dig into that. There's mayoral forums happening probably almost on the daily between now and July, through July.
Yeah.
So I know that one is coming up on June 7th. That's co-hosted with Civic Design Center, Transit Alliance, Urban Housing Solutions, Neighbor to Neighbor, and Walk Bike Nashville. We're going to be asking them particularly about affordability and transportation and infrastructure.
Okay.
There might be another one also popping up here and there, but pay attention to that.
Okay.
And go to the mayoral forums. Go ask them yourself, tweet them or whatever. Ask what's going on. But if you want to get into the decision making and transportation, the Greater Nashville Regional Council, or GNRC.org, is a great place to start, because they are a regional organization that helps allocate funding to transportation projects around the region. So look at what's going on there. They host public meetings, I think the third Wednesday of the month. RTA meetings, it's a WeGo regional bus. Public meetings for third Wednesday of the month, I believe, also. WeGo Nashville, like the MTA.
The MTA,
WeGo also has public meetings monthly, fourth Thursday of the month at 2:30. You can look at their website to get more information.
A lot going on.
A lot of public meetings going. Council, Nashville, council members public comment period. Like, get out there, make your comment, email your elected officials, tweet
Right.
them and say, yo, this is important to me.
Right.
Here's why. You don't have to have canned language.
You're right.
People, these are your neighbors,
Right.
Who, our council members aren't in DC, they're right here, they live here. They
Yeah.
want to talk to you, they want to hear your authentic voice
Yeah.
and hear about your experience.
What are some immediate actions or things that, okay, we might not be able to build an amp or get the subways and all that like right now today, but what are some things immediately that could help our transit situation, like fixing potholes, or is it a dedicated lanes for WeGo? Like, what are some of those things that people could be advocating for, talking to their council members, that is more of on a micro kind of ask?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Use your authentic voice. Like,
Yeah.
my daily commute consists of this, that, the other thing. There's a stop sign down at this intersection.
Okay.
Be vocal. There's Hub Nashville for that kind of stuff too. If you're looking to solve those kind of very hyper local things.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at, I feel weird about letting my kid play out in the front yard, for instance, because people speed down my street. Hub Nashville, NDOT, your council member,
Okay.
talk to them about it and see what they can do. If you're looking at, your particular bus route for some particular reason you want to improve somehow, call WeGo. They have an excellent customer service line. Come to the public meeting, give your public comment. Even if you want to sing the praises of WeGo, come give public comment.
Right.
I'm on a WeGo board. I would love to hear that, right? Help us improve the service and give accolades when the service is good.
Yeah. So just
and
don't
just
complain.
make it public.
Just come and be intentional about building better transit.
Yeah, and just know that if there's a struggle along the way, it's probably not because the transit agency doesn't want to provide a good service.
Right.
It's because they lack the funding to make it
Right.
superior.
Right.
Right. That's and I think that I've had this conversation before with someone. It might have been you, but like world-class city like Nashville.
That's what we're missing. That's what
we really deserve a world-class
if we get the
system.
mass transit that we rightfully deserve and need, right?
Yeah.
Like, we will be a world-class city, and that's, I think, one, if not the, like, of course we need affordable housing and things like that too, but that ties into transit. But if we can, get that, I think like we'll be top notch, right?
Right.
But what is Jessica's vision for transit here?
Jessica's vision for transit is that no one should be held back for their inability to get from one place to another, right?
Right.
So whether that's from my health, I need to get to my doctor's office, or to make more money, I need to get education and training, or a better job access, or from my mental health, I need to be accessing social engagements. It doesn't matter what the reason is why I need to get from one place to another.
Yeah.
But really, I shouldn't be held hostage because of my inability to afford a car. Right?
Right.
I would love, and I envision a future of Middle Tennessee of being able to live in Murfreesboro, Franklin, or Spring Hill, you know what I mean? Or anywhere in the 10-county region, and not really having to own a car, or being able to be a one-car family, even that far out.
Right.
Because we're so well connected with mass transit, micro-mobility, and our connected network of sidewalks and bike lanes would make it so we could do that.
Right. And dedicated funding.
And well, we can't get there without dedicated funding.
Yeah.
That's key. There, I mean, say whatever, but there will be no transformative mobility infrastructure without it.
I think that's a perfect line to end on. Jessica, I really appreciate your time. And hopefully people go to their website, and people reach out and really start digging into transit and start having a conversation like today.
Yes.
And right now, before it's 10 years too late and it's more expensive and it's even more of a headache for everybody. And thank you all for watching another episode of Slice of the Community. See y'all next time.